All right, diving into some seriously interesting stuff today, folks. Consciousness, the nature of reality, that kind of thing. We're looking at a YouTube video you sent over from David Parrish.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
Really gets you thinking. He digs into some ideas from Eastern philosophy, meditation practices. I mean, sometimes you ever just feel like, are we all just, I don't know, dreaming our way through life?
It's a question that's been around for ages, right?
Right.
Like, what is reality anyway?
Exactly. And Parrish kind of says, yeah, maybe we are.
He does jump right into the deep end, doesn't he? Go straight for Descartes. I think, therefore I am.
Classic philosophy, right?
But Parrish flips it around, says, no, no, no. Awareness has to come first. You have to be aware to even have those thoughts in the first place.
It's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? But for our minds.
Exactly. And he has this example about someone losing their memory after an injury, right?
Yeah, if who we are is just our memories.
Poof. What happens to that self if the memories are gone?
Gets you thinking about what identity even means.
Really does. And then he goes on with this analogy. The brain as a computer. Super powerful, obviously.
Capable of amazing things.
But just like any computer, it needs the right software. And Parrish says a lot of us, we're running on outdated programs.
Old conditioning, stuff that might not even be helpful anymore.
Right, those old thought patterns, beliefs we've picked up along the way.
So it makes you wonder, what kind of programs are we running? In our own lives, I mean.
It's a question worth asking. Are those beliefs you're holding on to, are they helping you, or are they actually holding you back?
Yeah, you start thinking about your own life.
And that ties into what Parrish says about faulty software, leading to cognitive biases, right?
We see what we expect to see, even if it's not the full picture.
Like our brain is trying to confirm what it already thinks it knows, whether it's true or not.
Oh, I do that all the time. If I'm in a bad mood, suddenly everything's annoying.
Exactly. You're looking for proof to support that bad mood. And Parrish says meditation can be like debugging that mental software.
So you start to see things more clearly, without all those biases clouding your view.
Makes sense. And he goes even further, says our normal waking state, it's actually kind of a dream state too, shaped by all that conditioning.
Whoa, that's a big one. Makes you wonder how much of what we see is actually real.
Or just our mind's projection.
So if we're all basically dreaming, how do we wake up?
Parrish says meditation, of course. But what does that even look like? How do you actually do it?
He keeps saying it's not about escaping reality.
Right. It's about seeing it more clearly for what it really is.
Developing a different kind of awareness.
Where you can observe your thoughts and emotions without getting swept away by them.
You know, sometimes when I try meditating, I feel like I'm thinking more, not less.
That's normal. It's like shining a light on all that mental clutter. You have to see it before you can clear it out.
I guess so. Becoming aware of all those thoughts swirling around.
And that awareness is the first step to changing them. You create some space, some distance between you and those thoughts. Then you can choose how you respond instead of just reacting automatically.
Responding versus reacting? Yeah, I feel like I'm on autopilot a lot of the time, just letting my emotions control what I do.
That's what Parrish says meditation can help with. Becoming more deliberate, more intentional about how you move through the world.
So much of it is automatic, isn't it? Like we're not even really thinking about it.
He actually talks about that, about how a lot of what we call real is actually just agreement. Like we all agree to believe in it.
Like a shared story we're all telling ourselves.
Exactly. Like money, it's just paper, right? But we've all agreed it has value.
Or diamonds, or just shiny rocks, but...
We've decided they're precious. So what else are we agreeing on that might not actually be true?
Or even helpful.
Right. He talks about social contracts, those unspoken rules about how we behave.
Keep things running smoothly.
Yeah. But they can also be limiting if you never stop to question them.
Like those expectations about what success looks like, or beauty standards. It's all just agreement.
And it can have a huge impact on how we live our lives.
Yeah.
So that's where Parrish's message about waking up comes in. Are you living your life? Or someone else's idea of what it should be?
It's like, are you following your own path or just going along with the crowd?
Exactly. And he has this other point about how our brains construct our visual reality based only on what hits our retinas.
So we're not actually seeing the world directly?
He says we're just seeing the back of our eyeballs. It's wild when you think about it. Our brains are creating this whole 3D experience.
But it means what we see is subjective, isn't it?
Totally. It's not necessarily what's out there, but what our brains have interpreted based on our own experiences, expectations, you know.
So not just collective agreements, but our own individual filters, too.
And that brings us back to meditation. like
Hmm.
debugging that software so you can see things a little more clearly, less distortion.
He talks a lot about letting go of the past and not worrying about the future, just focusing on the present moment.
He says that's the only reality we actually have, right? The present moment. But we spend so much time stuck in our heads,
Yeah, either reliving the past or fretting about the future.
missing out on what's right in front of us.
Guilty as charged. My mind is constantly running all over the place. Hard to just be here now.
That's what he's inviting us to come back to the present. He says all that mental time travel, that's what creates a lot of our suffering.
Because we're resisting what actually is right now.
He calls it the definition of upset, unfulfilled
Yeah.
expectations. We think things should be a certain way, and when they're not, we freak out.
Instead of just accepting what is.
Yeah, he said the problem isn't the situation itself, it's the story we tell ourselves about it, the mental commentary.
So it's not about ignoring our thoughts and feelings. It's more like noticing them.
Observing them without judgment, letting them pass through.
And that's where meditation comes in, I guess.
It helps you develop that mindfulness muscle so you can separate yourself from those stories, experience life more directly.
It's like you become the observer of your thoughts instead of getting tangled up in them.
Exactly. He also talks about that beginner's mind, again, that open, curious way of seeing things.
Like a child, right? Just amazed by everything.
Yeah, my nephew, he's fascinated by the smallest things, like how a bug crawls or the patterns in the clouds. Makes me realize how much I take for granted.
We get so used to things, we stop really seeing them.
That's what Parrish wants us to rediscover, that sense of wonder, being present to the beauty and mystery of, well, everything.
It sounds like it all comes back to awareness, doesn't it?
Being aware of those thoughts, those emotions, without getting carried away.
Like creating space so you're not so identified with those things.
And he reminds us that awareness is always there. It's our true nature, not something we have to invent.
Just uncover it.
He uses the analogy of bringing awareness from the back burner to the front burner. It's not about making something happen. It's about recognizing what's already there.
And meditation helps with that, I guess.
Shifting your attention, clearing away the mental clutter so you can experience that awareness more fully.
He's pretty intense about it, though. Says people should be afraid not to meditate.
Strong words. But I get what he means. All that mental chatter, it can cause so much suffering, confusion, conflict.
Like we're trapped in our own heads.
And he sees meditation as a way to break free. Discover a more fulfilling way of being.
It's not just about relaxing or de-stressing.
It's about a fundamental shift in how we experience reality.
And he says that shift in awareness, it can impact every area of your life.
Relationships, creativity, just your overall sense of well-being.
Bringing more joy and meaning to everything.
Exactly. Not escaping reality, but being more present in it.
Engaging with it in a more conscious way.
And that's what's so empowering about his message. We have the power to change our experience just by changing how we see things.
So as we go deeper into Parrish's ideas, what's sticking with you so far? What parts are really resonating?
I think for me, it's that idea about how our perception isn't always reliable. Like we create our own reality based on things we might not even be aware of. Past experiences, beliefs, those agreements we talked about.
It makes you question everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, like what stories am I telling myself about the world that might not be completely true?
And how are those stories shaping my reality?
Exactly. And Parrish is saying, hey, wake up. Question those stories. See if they're actually serving you.
He makes a pretty compelling case for meditation.
It's about training your mind to be more present, less reactive, seeing things more clearly.
Not about checking out of reality, but being more engaged with it, more skillfully.
Right. And that's what makes his message so hopeful, I think. We have the power to change our experience just by changing how we see things.
So if Parrish is right, and we're all basically constructing our own reality, how can you become a more conscious architect? What can you do to shape your experience in a more positive way?
It's a big question, isn't it? But I think it starts with recognizing that we do have a choice. We can keep running on autopilot, or we can start waking up, step out of that dream of the conditioned mind, and see what's really there.
It's a journey.
It is. And it sounds like meditation can be a pretty useful tool for navigating that journey.
Not a quick fix, but something that can lead to some pretty profound changes.
And how you see yourself and the world around you.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's still swirling around in your mind? What are you still chewing on?
I'm really fascinated by that idea of agreement and how much of what we consider real is just a shared belief system. Like, what are some of those agreements that are holding us back as a society? And how can we challenge those beliefs to create a more I don't know, a more just and compassionate world.
Yeah, what assumptions are we all taking for granted that might not actually be true or even beneficial? And how can we shift those beliefs to create something better?
I'm also curious about the practical side of it all. Like, how do you actually take these ideas and make them work in your everyday life?
It's one thing to understand it intellectually, but how do you actually live it?
It's about that awareness, right? Bringing it into every moment and choosing to respond to life in a more conscious, more compassionate way.
And that's something we can all work on. It starts with taking that first step
Hmm.
toward greater awareness, being willing to explore what's possible. It's a lot to think about, right? Not just concepts, but like how to actually put this stuff into practice.
Yeah, he really emphasizes that it's not going to be easy. Like he says, he tries to scare people into meditating.
That's a pretty strong approach.
He's definitely got strong opinions, but I think it comes from a good place. Like he sees how much potential we have, to really wake up and experience life in a deeper way.
And he doesn't want us to miss out.
Exactly. So like, don't waste this precious human life. Wake up, see it all.
It makes you think about those times when you're just going through the motions. Like, are you really living or just existing?
Yeah, like sleepwalking through life.
And that's what he's trying to shake us out of, right? Like, don't sleepwalk. There's so much to see and experience.
He even mentions how short a human life really is. In the grand scheme of things, I mean.
Makes you realize you don't want to waste any time.
It's definitely a wake-up call.
He's not saying we all need to become monks or anything, but is saying be more conscious about your choices, your thoughts, your actions. Connect with yourself, connect with the world around you.
Yeah, it's about that shift from reacting to responding,
Hmm.
like we talked about before. Are you letting your old programming run the show?
Or are you consciously choosing how you want to live?
It's like taking the wheel instead of letting autopilot take you wherever.
And meditation is part of how you learn to do that.
It gives you that space, that pause between something happening and how you react to it. So you can make a choice, a conscious choice.
And he does talk about the more practical benefits too, not just the big existential stuff, but like better relationships, less stress.
Being able to focus better, think more clearly.
Yeah, it's not just some airy-fairy spiritual thing. It actually can make your everyday life better.
Exactly. It's about living a better life right now, not just someday in the future.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into all things parish, I think it comes down to this. We have a choice. Stay asleep or wake up. Let our conditioning control us or start questioning things. Cultivate awareness, become more intentional about how we create our own experience.
It's an ongoing journey, isn't it? This whole waking up thing.
No finish line.
Just keep exploring, keep learning, keep growing.
And Parrish has given us some tools to help us do that. Meditation, that beginner's mind idea, questioning those agreements we talked about, remembering that awareness is our true nature.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. So as we finish out, what are you taking away from all this? What's really resonating with you? What questions are still popping up?
Well, for me, it's that idea that we're all creating our own reality. And if that's true, how can we do it more consciously? How can we create a better reality, not just for ourselves, but for everyone?
Yeah, how can we use these tools, these insights, to actually make a difference in the world?
It's a challenge, but it's an exciting one, I think.
Absolutely. It's about taking these ideas and putting them into action in our own lives, in our communities, in the world around us, and that's where the real adventure begins.
It does. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds wide open. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.